This is Carpe Diem calling in from Colorado with some pretty interesting thoughts. So Carpe Diem, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hold on a second. Let me get out of my Bluetooth here. I want to make sure you guys can hear me well. Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you just fine, Carpe. Welcome back to Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hi. So first of all, I love SE. I'm a part of the SE server on Discord, so shout out. And I really think everybody that's interested in SE should join up because it's a really good way to practice it and also see it in practice outside of the YouTube videos. And we often give feedback on the spot, so I just wanted to give a shout out for that. So Anthony said something earlier that kind of, I guess I took a little bit of issue with, which is that it's not really a persuasion strategy. And I kind of agree that it doesn't have to be, and that often when we engage with it, it's a good way to think of it as like honestly not trying to persuade the other person, just really having an open conversation. However, I think that most of the time when you are doing it, if you're honest, and most of the people who are doing it are kind of doing it with like an attitude of like, let me make sure this person is on solid ground. And in doing it, it ends up being a situation where you kind of seed, just sow doubt, right? And then in doing so, end up, if not persuading the person towards a certain goal, you end up persuading the person away from something, away from a badly held belief, right? And so I don't think that it's fair or honest, completely honest, to say that it's not often used as a persuasion strategy. I would even go as far as saying that it's an attack strategy, right? It's a good way to attack a badly held belief. And in that sense, I think it is persuasion. Even if it's not persuasion towards your belief, it's persuasion away from a badly held belief. Would you disagree with that?
I'm really glad that you brought that up because we talk about this a lot. If you're in the SE Discord, you no doubt you've probably seen discussions about that. I think we've even created a channel in that Discord server for ethics. And I pop in there frequently and I see that comes up a lot. I think, yes, you can. I don't advocate for using SE as a persuasion technique to get somebody to come around to my side, but you can do that. You absolutely can use SE. I mean, it's very effective in helping a person realize that they don't have good reasons to justify their confidence that what they think is true is really true. And that can result in belief revision. So you can go out as a warrior for SE to just correct the world on all their mistaken views. I suppose you could do that. But I suppose, I guess I'm of the position that you should try to be open. Like maybe essential oils really do have some medicinal benefit, to go back to the previous caller. I do try to stay open to it. However, like when I was talking with Dan, I'm an atheist. I don't think gods are real. I don't think faith is reliable. However, like I would still stick in with him on that conversation because he may be right and I want to come around to his view. However, if he can't justify it, I want to help him realize that so he can probably lower his confidence on his own. Not necessarily to come around to my view, but maybe it inspires him to go back to his group and say, this dude asked me lots of questions. The video's out there. What is the better definition of faith? What is a better reason to give than faith, for example, or a more reliable epistemology or method? So like I'm optimistic that SE doesn't shut the conversation down so that you come around to my view.
Yep.
It's to open people up so that we get together and we communicate. So
I agree with that. It's a listening and questioning strategy by a Socratic method to help the person induce their own questioning within, right? So it's almost like you're trying to, like the whole inception thing, you're almost trying to get into the person's head to make sure the person thinks for themselves about why they are thinking what they're thinking, right?
Yes.
So we're on the same page about that. What I'm saying is that 90% of the people who engage in it are engaged in it as a way to like induce questioning of other people's beliefs. Do you really hold that it's not a way to persuade away from a badly held belief?
I want to think about it like this. If I can talk about it too, Anthony, unless you have a response. But like there are a lot of scientists out there that pursue particular research topics because they hear claims about, things, and they want to know the truth about something. So they're going to use the scientific method to figure out whether that belief is true or not. And they're going to publish the research on that, based on what they find. And I think there's some similarities there when we talk about SE, because scientists are people too, and they have interests and they hear things and they want to know stuff. And so they kind of like a scientist, we're using this method to figure out the truth claims of other people and what they're saying. Can you use it for an agenda? I don't know. Can you use the scientific method for an agenda if it discovers something true? I mean, potentially there are people that, pay off different scientific groups to put up different publishings and stuff. And of course, like, we're people who practice this method, so we have our own reasons as to why we might employ it in one particular conversation or another. But if the method is truly objective, if the method can truly be used by anybody, regardless of their belief, in any particular deity or not even that, any kind of claim, then I don't think it's bad to think about it as something that you can use, period. Like a strategy implies that there's an agenda. We're using SE to fulfill an agenda. And if I try to think that my agenda is to figure out the truth, but, some people might not believe me when I say that. And I don't know.
If I may interject, typically I try to set my agenda as.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carpe, because
I want to hear Ben's thoughts.
No. I want to hear from Ben as well. Go ahead, Ben. You go first.
Yeah. Sure. I was going to say, I typically set we're also nice here.
For people who do SE, you go.
I typically try to set my agenda as understanding how a person came to a belief.
Yeah.
I typically don't come at it from a point of view of my goal is to lower their confidence. And I had to evolve on that. I think originally I got into it because maybe I was thinking that way, but then I adjusted to, if I can understand how they came to that belief, and we go on that journey together, I think that's much more productive, because then they are thinking about it the same way I am. We're on the same page, and we both potentially grow out of that. And at the end of the day, if I don't change my position, at least I've learned how they come to their view.
Yeah,
I think we are in agreement. So I agree that that's the right attitude. Let me talk to this person and see if I can be convinced. Let me talk to this person and see if they can convince themselves. So I'm right there with you. What I'm saying is, while that might be the message we might want to send, that if you watch SC videos online, a lot of them have the flavor of, here, you're wrong about this, and you're being convinced by yourself that you're wrong about this kind of scenario. Most of the people who are even involved in it may, after the fact, feel as if they were persuaded, even if they weren't, if the intention wasn't to persuade them per se. So I'm just going to say, like, it's a persuasive tool, even if you don't realize it. So I guess what I'm trying to say, it's an attack tool. It's a tool designed. It's a tool designed to attack a belief, right? To make sure the belief is held well.
You want to attack
Would you agree with that?
If I to go back to my metaphor, if I'm using the scientific method to prove my point, does that say something about the flaws of the scientific method, or am I speaking to the valuableness of the method itself to make a statement about something? Right? Like, I that's how I tend to think about it, because okay, I'm not too hot on essential oils, so I'm going to use scientific arguments against that, because that's what's convincing to me. And I think people are convinced by the SE method. But like Anthony's saying, like Ben's saying, I think people can equally be convinced by this, and you don't necessarily have to have an agenda to even think about it like that, I guess. But you do have to value the method. You do have to think that it's useful and reliable in some ways.
I think it's a little interesting too that we're actually trying a little persuasion here too. Like, we're trying to justify our position, and maybe you persuade somebody who thinks that it's persuasion that it's really not, or something. But there's a couple things that I've noticed. Like, I'll engage with a lot of theists who say, you don't believe in God? Oh, here's this book that you should read that will convince you. It's being offered to me to persuade me to come around to their view. And I have to always tell people, please don't give me what you think I'll find convincing. I want to understand how you became convinced.
Yeah.
And by that, it shifts from persuasion to take me through your process. Now, the end result may be them realizing, oh shit, I can't justify this view to myself. And boop, the light bulb goes off, the seed is planted, the journey begins, and then the communities like us are out there, if it's a God belief or something.
Right.
That I think is the difference. And the other thing too is we're not saying, hey, atheists, we've got this great tool just for us to use with theists. I want theists to learn it as well so that they can use it with me, because ultimately I think it's a process of elimination of identifying unreliable epistemologies and bad reasons, so we can set those aside and we can look and see what's left for the both of us, all of us. So on
that I totally agree, Anthony. But that's my point. It's a tool to attack a badly held belief, right? So what I'm saying is that you are trying to make sure the person themselves feels well about can I justify where I stand on, right? And I agree with that. What I'm saying is that, okay, I'll ask you two simple questions, and you guys can either take turns or ignore it, whatever. So do you feel that the community of SE uses the tool without the intention to convince people away from a badly held belief? Or do you think that that's an accurate description of what the community is doing?
But before we jump into that, I want to adjust the phrasing. I'm not attacking the belief necessarily. I think a lot of people may. It's about attacking the epistemology. It's about attacking the method. Sure. If you want to adjust the target of the attack, it's not the belief itself.
I'm glad you said that, because I was actually going to say the same thing. It's like, if you think of that triangle, that pyramid, like, we're a little bit interested in the belief, but it's the reasons and methods that we're focused on. So when you attack, I hate that word attack, because I'm like, I don't think I'm attacking
too.
We're not using SE like as a series of rhetorical questions to answer someone's arguments. It's
who's done that before? I don't know.
Yeah. But you'll have to.
So I guess my language is because even the attitude is meant as a passive attitude of like, I want to understand why you understand. So using the word attack might seem like the wrong word, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like, you're forcing someone to defend themselves on what they believe, and in doing so, you may shift their confidence in their belief. So in a way, it's an attack because you're forcing them to be defensive. That's all I meant. But
my hope would be that anybody
not the best
forcing them to be defensive.
The
last thing I would want is my conversation partner to be defensive, and I would say I'm suggesting maybe targeting would be better than attack. We're not targeting the belief. We're targeting the reasons and methods which have implications for the belief. Like, the belief can tumble. My confidence that the belief is factually true is really at stake, but it's not the target. It could be the result of targeting reasons and methods. But I can see how when you watch videos and you see theists, like, Dan's a great example. Like, I don't know if I have a good reason to hold this anymore. It has implications for the belief that I thought was true and the crowd that I'm hanging around with and all this other stuff. But again, like, I think the solution is to be as open with what this tool can do with our conversation partners at the start, but also encourage other people to share their views, to learn the tool so that they can question me about my position. So oftentimes, here's the other thing. Like, I think a lot of the examples in SE are one way, a dude with a clipboard saying, okay, Dan, okay, his friend, give me your reasons, give me your methods. This is like at you, but it can be a back and forth. And with that and all the other stuff that I think that we've mentioned, I think it allows you the option of taking it out of the realm of persuasion, but it still could be. Let's be, this is a tool. Anyone could pick it up and say, I'm intentionally going to go out and speak with this demographic to help them see that they don't have good reasons and methods for their belief. And it has implications for their confidence in their claim.
Yep. And
it's murky.
I can't speak to the community as a whole, but I can say, at least for this show, there's a reason why this isn't called, Atheist Experience Wanted or whatever. I call it Truth Wanted because I didn't want this to be a purely atheist show. I've wanted to talk about all kinds of stuff. And so far, we've been pretty successful with that, I think, because that is my intentions, at least. I want to know what people believe and why all across the spectrum. And so again, yeah, I can't speak for everybody else, but that's what I've tried to do. At least there may be some bad actors that don't want that maybe think that this is just a way to get more atheists in the fold. But I have broader interests than just, that, because that even in itself is problematic, because I don't want more atheists necessarily. I want more people thinking about why they believe the things that they do, and shedding ones that they find that they, can't justify to themselves. Yeah, that's why I left my belief system, because I couldn't justify it for myself, and I'm thankful that somebody talked to me about it. So yeah, but I'm also biased. Well, I benefited from it, so I don't know.
I'm glad I called. I'm glad I called, because if nothing else, this can be clipped as something that people can point to say, no, SC isn't some sort of nocive, I'm trying to get you thing necessarily. It's really just a way to communicate with somebody else about where they are. Personally, some of the best SCs I've ever been involved in had nothing to do with religion, and I loved when at the end the person turns it around and does it on you when they have themselves practices on it. So I'm with Anthony on that. That would be super cool if more people will engage in it, period. I guess what I'm coming from is that when you engage in it, for the most part, you are trying to, like, I guess if you have the attitude of, like, I'm open, let me just have these questions, I might even be convinced. That's great, and I wish more people had that attitude. But the line of questioning, like even like the setup that we were taught on how to do it, even on the server or by Anthony on the lectures that I've said, the line of questioning seems one that is designed to dismantle, not dismantle, but make sure the person is being supported by columns which are sturdy, right? And if they aren't, a good belief survives it, right? A good, well-held belief that has good evidence survives the attack, right? So just because detargeting, that, if you want to use that word, but one that isn't will suffer from that, and you end up, the end result is that you persuade the person away from their belief, even if not towards something. And so that's why I guess my analysis of it is that it's not necessarily meant to be like that, but the often result is that you move the person, right? At least you would want to.
Well, hold on a second. Are you moving the person, or are you moving the? I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt. That's a bad SE thing. But
no. I agree. I agree with you. You're not really moving the person. The person is moving themselves, but you're the agent that's causing the conversation to go in that direction. So I think it's fair to say that the end result is, if the person does have a badly held belief, you are persuading them away from it. I guess persuasion is convincing someone of something. And if you are the one initiating the conversation that causes the person to be deconverted, I guess, from where they are, in a way, I mean, that's definition of persuasion, because you're moving the person from their position, and which you should if they have badly held beliefs, and we need more of it in society. I guess that's that's the way I saw it. But I'm going to be honest with you that you guys moved me a lot in this conversation, and it wasn't an SC conversation, but I feel a lot better about, particularly what I loved was what Anthony said, that to have the attitude of going there perhaps to be convinced by somebody else. And I think that was powerful. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Carpe, that's all the time we got for this call in particular, but I'm really glad that you brought this up, because this is we've talked about this before, Anthony. Like, this is one of the most important questions we have to ask ourselves when we do SE. I think anybody who's really interested in this method, you really got to ask yourself this, because when I first talked to you, look, a guy on a campus with a camera trying to talk to people about their beliefs.
Gotcha. Question.
Like, it just is like, and if I hadn't been as open-minded to that conversation, I might not have thought well of you. In fact, kind of in those clips, you can kind of see I'm like almost accusatory in my tone of saying, what are you really doing here?
Right. Which of course, taking the time to explain, and I've really come a long way since that interview too, where I probably just said, hey, I'm not exactly sure how I asked you and explained what I was doing. It's been an evolutionary process. If you look at my older stuff, I was out there with a sign saying, do you think prayer works? Let's talk. So it's really evolved to, I'm doing this thing called street epistemology. I want to ask you some questions. It may cause you to reflect on your belief. It may impact your confidence. You get to pick the topic, all this stuff. So it's really been this evolutionary process to the point where, and I'm so glad that this person called, because ethics is a really big part of it. We're in the process now of designing a course for street epistemology to teach this. We recognized really early on, and the community who gave us suggestions, I can't tell you how many people said, please cover ethics. Please cover ethics. Ethics will be in there. It's crucial. And it's gray. It's very gray. But I think that the more diverse people that we bring into the community who are learning the method and helping us perfect it, the easier it will be to say that I'm not trying to direct you to my position. It's really just to try to get rid of faulty reasons and methods. And we see what's left. And then we see if our confidence is really justified for that particular claim. And that benefits humanity. So like, it's like, what else can we, I don't know what more we can do. I know we probably want to move on to the next caller, but
yeah,
I'm belaboring the point.
Honestly, we don't even have time for the next caller. we just had that time for one, really. But I keep going back to this metaphor, and maybe you find this problematic. But like, if a scientist is using the scientific method to find something, and they become convinced of something from that method, is the scientist doing the persuading, or is it the method? And I think in SE, we're asking other people to engage. We're almost like scientists asking other scientists to engage in this method with us and see if we found, our methods of probing, as it were, to be reliable ones and to give us, true information about the world. Because it does come down to the method more than the person. If you had asked the same questions and you had motivations to make me a better believing Christian, you could still arguably ask those questions to me, because I'm still going to want to know the answers to those questions. So I have no problems with when people ask like, oh, like, is this an attack? What's going on here? Because like at the end of the day, people are asking questions that need to be answered anyway. And it's not going to be the questions that convince us, but rather what answers we finally settle on when we, figure it out at the end of the day. I don't know. I figured out some answers. Maybe they're not right, but that's why I have this show, so people can tell me if I found the right ones. Right. So, but that's it, guys. That's all the time that we really have for tonight.